Welcome to everyone who is joining in. It's good to see you all here. I'm just going to wait for a few minutes for a few more the attendees to join in, and then we'll start. If you can hear me, just mention in the Q&A, not the Q&A, rather in the chat window. I think at the bottom of your screen, you'll be able to see a chat which says, yes, I can see people responding. Good evening, good evening. Hi, Govind, Bridge, Diana. Good to see you guys here. Great. Good to see you all here. Yes. So we are going to start in the next couple of minutes. We generally just start off by 7:03, 7:04, just to sort of wait for the others to join in here. For those of you who don't know, the series of webinars is on product management. Every Friday from 7 to 8 p.m. we have a webinar, and the main aim really is to help you upskill, help you to understand how you can transition or upskill or learn something new, a new skill. So that is what we're doing. So far we've had already 5 episodes that we've run so far, and we're going to go and have the fifth episode rather, today with Harshad. So I hope you're looking forward to it and are excited by it. So just as we do, for the other sessions as well, we just start with a quick like a poll, just to sort of understand your experience, what you're looking at from this session. So I'm going to release that right about now. It should be coming on your screen now. Do let us know how many years of experience you have, and how that will help us cater the session accordingly, and it will help us understand your profile and confident accordingly. These sessions will be recorded, so yes, we will be sending them to you. Aditya says, I could only find 2 videos on YouTube. Can you share video 3 and 4? Yes, Aditya, sorry if you only found 2 videos. They should be available, but I'll resend that again to you guys via email tomorrow and soon as well. Harshad, can you see the poll? Is it visible to you?
Yes, yes.
Okay, perfect. So we'll just let this run for a minute or so more, and then we'll get cracking on with the session. This session is being recorded. Again, just a disclaimer, it is being recorded. It will be sent to you guys over email, so you can watch it again. I know many people ask that. Second question is there a certificate that will be provided for this? No, we do not provide certificates for these sessions specifically. Upgrad has free courses that we have on our website. You can just punch in Upgrad free courses, and there are, you can get the certification once you complete that. For those of you again who don't know, Upgrad is an online edtech platform wherein we deliver online master's degrees, diplomas, and programs which help you upskill and transition into your program of interest or into your industry of interest. So we'll just wait for a minute more, and then we can get started. Harshad, you'll be ready in a minute, right?
Yes.
Okay. Kritika, I think if you haven't received any recordings, I'll post a YouTube link here on the chat sometime towards the end of the session, and you can pick it up. You can actually bookmark that link, because all the episodes, even today's, will be added to that specific YouTube playlist. So you save that link. I'll post it over here. Now, just for everyone, we will be taking questions. So the session is catered in such a way where we'll have a 45 minute session with Harshal, and thereafter we will have a 15-minute or so Q&A, wherein you will ask your specific questions and we'll take it up. So any specific questions you have, please add them in the Q&A tab. So on your phones or your desktop, you will see a Q&A which will be which is there, not the chat. Add that in the Q&A tab. Towards the end of the session, I'll be the one moderating and asking the questions to Harshad. I'll pick those questions up and ask them to Harshad, and we will, sort of help you with that. So please do add them in the Q&A and not in the chat window specifically. You can, chat, but don't chat too much, because we want to focus on the session and we don't want to disturb people during the session. But anyways, without further ado, I think we've got around 70% people who've already voted for the intro poll, and it's good to see you engaging with us. We're so excited for episode 5 with Harshad. And Harshad, I think you can share your screen and let's get started. Over to you.
Okay. All right. So I started sharing my screen.
It's visible.
Great.
So
Thank you.
start by introducing yourself, and then we can.
Well, hi everyone. I'm Harshad Pingay. Okay, and thank you for having me here, and thank you for having me as a speaker in this webinar. I'm excited to share my learnings on this topic with you. So let's get started. Okay, I'm going to turn off my video to conserve the bandwidth. Okay. All right. So why we are doing this topic? So the name of the topic is how to rightly build a product that makes a difference. It is important for product manager to align product goals and delivery to the overall business goals. And this way, it demonstrates how the product will enhance the success of the business. Right? So now, before we go to the topic, brief introduction. Okay.
Harshad, I think your voice is a bit soft. Can you be a bit louder? I think we're not be able to hear you very well.
How about now? Is it audible?
It's still a bit soft. But anyways, go on.
Okay, great. I am from Pune and I currently work for Siemens. So far, I have designed product and productized software products for telecommunications, semiconductor, payment network, and manufacturing domains. Currently, I work for Siemens to enable its customers to do exploration of digitalization in the world of IoT. Overall, it has been a satisfying journey all these years since 2004. This journey is filled with lots of learning on the job and memorable moments. And today I will try to share some of these learnings and experiences with you. I do enjoy product management responsibilities, and I also enjoy the long distance running and trekking. This would be my brief introduction before we begin today's webinar. I am excited about it, and I will put my best efforts in it. Let's hope that everyone will be able to derive some insights today. Okay, so today I'll try to illustrate a journey of a product feature from concept to reality. And before we embark on this, we'll first understand the landscape of product management. Okay, and then we'll get ourselves familiar with the words and the languages spoken in this landscape. We'll observe different kinds of conversations that happen between people here and try to understand what they derive out of these conversations. And finally, we will equip ourselves with few tools, techniques, and frameworks that will guide us and help us in this journey. So this way, our journey should enable us to answer simple yet important questions. Are we building the right product? And are we building the product right? I sincerely hope that through this session, aspiring product managers should be able to derive insights on different types of communication product managers do with variety of stakeholders. Then different ways of conceptualizing product features. And finally, how to help teams build better, more valuable software for the business. All right. Let's first understand how product management role responsibilities enable us to build a right product rightly. Now, technology is one aspect of product, and there are other aspects to it as well. Right? Product manager interacts with all these aspects, and these aspects are nothing but the stakeholders performing different functions. Product managers regularly communicates, coordinates, converses with all of them. And depending on the domain, industry, and the scale of organization where you spend most of your time, different titles emerge that overlap with the responsibilities of product manager. There is a lot of variety in this interdisciplinary mode of communication. It is both verbal and non-verbal. It is textual and visual. It is analytical and intuitive. It includes negotiation, expectation management, evangelism, assertion, and there are conversations everywhere. You cannot simply avoid them when you are in this role. So product managers turns this conversation into insights, plans, and finally products. When you devote enough time for product management discipline, you'll realize that to be successful, you should build and sharpen ability to create strong relationships and articulate ideas, whether in conversations, during formal presentations, or through collaterals. Now today, market and business dynamics are continuously evolving, right? So customers, they are overwhelmed with choice and information. Markets are more competitive, they are global, they are connected, and they are constantly being disrupted so than they were before the dawn of internet. And in these network markets and economies, organizations try to solve real life problems using new concepts such as two-sided networks or information asymmetry or game theory and whatnot. So the speed and the scale at which you need to evolve your product has changed significantly. And in such dynamics, collaborating efficiently and effectively with the internal and external stakeholders to deliver a functional and breakthrough product has become more challenging than before for product managers. There are often tensions between the goals of these all functions, okay? And product manager often resolves or preemptively avoids these tensions through the communication or conversation. They synthesize a diverse range of inputs, determine the path forward, and communicate the direction that aligns this cross-functionality. This all comes with stress, high expectations, and moments of self-doubt. Now, this is what makes product management jobs tough. But fear, I think, it's a useless emotion in the product management. The way you maintain the confidence is to break down these unknown or ambiguous challenges into series of iterative steps, and then rigorously measure the outcomes. So this way you build stepwise, build the confidence, and then this kind of process is also known as validation. Over the period of time, you realize that the failure is not an end state, rather it is just a minor road bump along the path to success. Now let's see the different reasons of doing these conversations with multiple stakeholders, and also understand the outcomes of all these conversations. So it starts with the product vision. It paints the picture of how your product will make an impact. And the product strategy, it refers to our plan of accomplishing our product vision. Your business model is the foundation of your strategy, and setting the direction for it sets the direction for success. Typically, vision is defined for say 3 to 5 years. Strategy is defined and evaluated for 1 or 3 years, whereas business goals and objectives are defined and evaluated quarterly or annually. Then product marketing is the sum of all the efforts necessary to do research, do the messaging, positioning, promotion, and support of your product so that it successfully resonates with the target audience. Product marketing, it requires participation in product discovery and delivery and go-to-market strategy. Once product is launched, the goal is to grow. But then once it increases in adoption or it achieves the exponential growth, then marketing needs to focus on maintaining the market share and defending itself from the competition. So the point that I'm trying to make is the goals in product marketing change depending on which phase of your product is in. Now, I believe that product management is more about managing a problem that product solves So PMs or product managers, they reside in the problem space, whereas engineering and development, they reside in the solution space. So product architect uh, act product architects act as an interface between the problem and the solution space. A significant slice of product management role involves working with the development team, while you may ensure that the right approach, or by defining the what part of the product, you allow your team a space to solve the how part of the product. So the interactions with the design and development team is quite frequent, almost daily or on the weekly basis. Then most of the finance and financial or economic and planning analysis is usually done before you start the product development. And some of the regulatory and compliance related activities have annual frequencies of execution. So through my experience, I have realized that you become impactful product manager when you're able to, when you are strategic, when it is needed, while executing tactically, right? So you have to be strategic while executing tactically. So when this is what this is why the product management role is such an interesting role, where because you have to balance both of these acts. And when you proactively define your role and value what you bring to your organization, rather than wait for someone to be define it for you, then you become an impactful product manager. Also, when you align the product strategy with business goals to deliver the value to both customer and to your organization, then you become a impactful product manager. Let's understand how to do that. Okay, so product managers, through their influence, play an important role in and the role of a bridge in the company. So they ensure that the dynamics of the product and the market are known across the broader organization, and then they translate the direction of the company into a convincing product vision. So this vision, okay, then motivates and guides the cross-functional product team. This vision is nothing but the shared objective for the product team, and it gives team its purpose. All the members in the team, they contribute in their own way to fulfill this vision. Product strategy refers to our plan for accomplishing the product vision. It answers questions such as what will we do, what will we not do, how do we best use our resources to compete, and all. So it is a set of principles and decisions, and they are usually informed by reality, such as market forces or the data or the information or laws of physics. So they help you and the product team to make many decisions and trade-offs that arise when you actually define the features and the user experience. Product strategy is the bridge between the business strategy and the product roadmap. Okay. Business strategy is all about identifying your business goals and objectives, deciding where to invest to best achieve these objectives. So business, they maintain a portfolio of investments, and it is usually adjusted as markets and business dynamics evolve. So the business team, they provide a budget to a product team, and they also provide a set of business metrics to the product team, and then product team operates within this budget to accomplish these goals and objectives. All right. Now roadmap. Roadmap isn't a, it's not a set in a stone plan, and it's not also a commitment. Rather, it is a communication tool. It is a visualization of where your product is going, and it can come in many forms, right? It should be looked for direction rather than a precision. So it has time horizons, not the specific dates, and your product prioritization is an actionable interpretation of the roadmap. There are many factors such as value, cost, risks, or desirability that go in the prioritization functions. Roadmap usually has uh, it highlights the capabilities. It does not highlights the minute features. A capability is the ability of the product to help the stakeholders and the users to realize their goals. Right? They are implementation neutral. They are high level concepts. So they give the flexibility to engineering team to build our underlying features. And not all capabilities are focused on business functionality. Some of them are called as non-functional requirements, like these, NFRs for short, and they can apply across the whole system. Now, you design and implement the features to deliver these capabilities and in turn deliver the value. So there are a number of techniques that help, there are a number of techniques that help you model the relative value of this feature in terms of business value they provide. This process is called as a product discovery. And at the heart of product discovery lies your ability to iteratively gather the validated learnings. Now, once you have a high level set of features that you want to implement, you need to expand their scope to include the variety of inputs or the behaviors that affect the outcomes. Here, conveying requirements in the form of example helps. Examples are a very effective way of communication or a communication of an idea or communication of a concept, right? Or a problem. They help you discover and clarify what you don't know. And they are intuitive and easy to understand. So this way you can remove the assumptions and misunderstandings. Now, features can be broken down into stories that are easier to build and deliver in one go. And then they help you to deliver a feature. So stories, along with different types of automated tests, such as unit tests or acceptance tests or integration tests, they form the code base of your product. So when you identify all the capabilities and features that yield desired business value, choosing where to focus quickly becomes most important decision product manager makes. So organization and product strategy guides these prioritization decisions. Now, a good product discovery, it starts with a clear desired outcome, and it's an iterative process. You identify a feature that will provide the most business value, then build and deliver that feature, seek the feedback, and then adjust your assumptions based on the feedback and repeat the cycle. So this is how vision, strategy, and roadmaps build upon one another. And their execution continuously evolves, that makes an impact. Let's see some of the techniques and frameworks that enable product teams to realize the product concept from a product feature from concept. So you as a product manager first figure out what your company goals are, understand how they are being measured, and then also understand what your product is supposed to deliver towards meeting them. So this way, you can make sure your roadmap is telling the story of how your product will meet those goals and what's actually possible. Okay. Now first, let's understand a word that is very commonly used in product management landscape. It is a use case. Use cases, they group common requirements based off of role or a goal. Simply put, use case is a description of all the ways user wants to use a product. And these uses are requests to the product, and use cases what the product does in response to these requests. Generally, use case is very specific to a context. And one product may support multiple use cases. For example, enterprise backup product may support the use case of copy data management, then data classification, and data governance. Let's understand it with one more example. I told you, right, I enjoy long distance running. So we'll take an example of a shoe company, and a mobile app by a shoe company may support multiple use cases such as browsing, purchasing, order tracking, social media integration or sharing, and publishing a review, etc. There are templates available for describing a user journey and modeling the use cases. Next, we'll see another commonly used word in product management, and it is called as user journeys. So mapping a user experience is a method of visualizing user's experience surrounding a particular product. Okay, while the user is accomplishing a particular goal. So basically, you map an entire end-to-end experience for the user as user is using the product to accomplish a goal. It helps companies to visualize a baseline understanding of a total experience journey. And user journey is usually drawn from the point of view of particular user or a persona. In its most basic form, user journey mapping starts with collecting a series of user actions onto a timeline. So two important concepts, timeline and the user actions are steps. And each step in the user journey, it describes the context, a path of progression, meaning how one step will lead to another next step, touch point, meaning touch points such as devices or whatever related to product comes across to user in that step, and from the point of view of users. So each touch point adds to the overall user experience. And user journeys, they typically span across multiple contexts such as physical, digital, across multiple devices such as computer, mobile, and across multiple media channels. So let's understand this with the help of example. So let's continue the example of the shoe company. Now, I'm a user and we are going to see a journey of my journey of purchasing a new shoe. Okay. So my existing shoes have worn off during a repeated use and I want to purchase a new pair of shoes. So first step describes how I became aware of new product from a shoe company. I might have came across a Facebook ad or might have watched a promotional video or might have noticed those new shoes on the feet of my friend colleagues or friends, runner friends. Now, next step was to do research about this pair of shoes. So I read reviews on Amazon, I watched a video review on YouTube, and once I became convinced that these new pair of shoes will serve me better, I made a purchase. Then I started using it in various activities and various contexts. So I used it for training, I used it for in marathons. And once I fell in love with this new pair, I wanted to share my experience and feelings with everyone. So I started influencing now. So now if you're a product manager of digital products of the shoe company, this journey map lets you identify points of friction and opportunities and draw insights which will help you to accomplish certain business goals. Next, we'll see a technique that allows you to associate business goals, product features, and stakeholders in an intuitive way. All right. That this is called as impact mapping. An impact map is a kind of a mind map. It is usually drawn to visualize the relationship between the business goal stakeholders that will be affected by the product, and the features that will enable the product to deliver the expected results. So it is usually built during a series of, oops, sorry. Okay. So it is usually built during the series of conversations between stakeholders and members of the development team. Conversation is done around 4 types of questions. So let's understand these questions and answers, and in the context of same shoe company, from where I have recently purchased a new pair of shoes. The first question, the first question is why. So it starts with the business goal. Here you are trying to find out why we are building the product feature in the first place. Okay, let's suppose that the goal for this shoe company is to increase the online sales revenue by 10%. So this forms our goal, business goal. Okay, and we start drawing the map from this root node. Then the second question is who. So here you try to identify stakeholders who will be affected by the outcome or who can make an impact on the outcome. Okay, so this is very important to understand. So there are 2 types of stakeholders that we identify. One, who will be affected by the outcome, and second, who can make an impact on the outcome. So here amateur runners like me, or club members or digital marketers who could make an impact on the outcome through their positive actions can be identified. And we would want to enable them to take these positive actions and help us accomplish our business goal. This leads to a third question, how we do it, right? So here you think of how a product might make it easier for stakeholders to contribute to a business goal. And answers to this question points to capabilities of your product. In the context of example here, we see that product needs to exhibit multiple capabilities to enable runners, say club members, and digital marketers to increase the sales revenue. Now, see, runners and the club members meaning this shoe company might have its own online club, and runners usually they join this club, they do a discussion on the forum. So runners and the club members are outside of a company, whereas digital marketers are employees of company, and all these stakeholders are going to affect the outcome or make an impact on the outcome through their positive actions. Now, fourth question is what. In the context of building product, the answers to what corresponds to high-level features. So here we see a list of identified features that once implemented would bring required capabilities in the product, and these capabilities will help us achieve the business goal. And this completes the first iteration of our impact map. Now, through series of conversations with required stakeholders and development team members, we can further refine this impact map. So as you see, it is quite visual and intuitive, and it can be easily understood by the business and technical team members of the product team. Okay. Now, this map, like, because it can be understood by both the teams, business and technical teams, forms it's a great tool for having the conversations. And we are not going to use any specific language, may it be technical or may it be business, from the business domain, but we are just doing the conversations through examples and trying to identify capabilities and features. So this is how capabilities and features, they emerge from the conversations. Now, once we have a list of features, we need to break them down into something more refined and clear and small enough so that development team can start implementation. And that this small structure is called as user stories. So a user story is a simplified description of a requirement. It describes the type of user, what they want, and why they want. Now, the objective of writing user story is to shift the focus from writing the requirements to having these conversations about the requirement. So Kent Beck first introduced the term, and Bill Beck came with the invest mnemonic to describe the characteristics of good stories. Whereas Mike Cohen, he has written a book that is now standard book on writing the user stories. A common way to formulate a user story is this format, where the as a clause refers to an entity who wants the story to be done, okay, or who wants this functionality or feature. Then I want describes the behavior of the product written as an action, and so that it describes why user wants this functionality or a goal. So let's write a story of amateur runner from our last example. Okay, so as a customer, in order to support the business goal of including, we are taking that example that we want to increase the online sales revenue by 10%. And this story is from that context. So as a customer, I want an app to infer the correct shoe size and width so that I can easily make the purchase online. Right? So this is what we identified this feature through impact mapping, that once we allow or enable user to quickly make a purchase online, quickly and easily make the purchase online, it would lead to an increase in sales revenue. Now, there is another variation of this form, and this form puts the goal first. This way, it places emphasis on the expected outcome, which should have been the obvious value to the business, right? So this variation is from a feature injection technique, an approach suggested by Chris Matz. Now, user stories are also a building blocks of larger agile constructs such as epics and initiatives. Epics are large work items broken down into set of stories, and multiple epics, they comprise an initiative. Now, good user story captures the essence, not the details. And when developed, its outcome will be seen across the layer of technology and process in your product. This way, initiatives, epics, stories form your product backlog. And product manager and development team members collaboratively and periodically groom the product backlog so that you have now stories small enough and testable, and they are also valuable. Next, we'll see a technique that will allow us to make a sense of backlog and help us plan the release. Okay, and this technique is called as user story mapping. Now your backlog can grow quickly, and it has list of all the potential features, stories. It also has issues, proposed refactoring changes. So to make sense of your backlog, you prioritize it and arrange it accordingly. The technique of user story mapping can be very helpful in release planning. So you start by identifying a high-level user outcomes written as the narrative flow or the user journey at the top. And these steps can be thought of as the features. Then you identify detailed tasks and subtasks or alternating ways of accomplishing these tasks. These can be thought of as stories. Now, once you map out an entire journey this way, we prioritize and estimate the stories, right? So usually the stories are arranged in such a way that top story has the highest priority, and the bottom story has the least priority. And then you identify or try to identify a release in a way that it becomes a set of functionality that makes sense to deliver to users at the same time. Now, when you visualize your product backlog this way, you get a better sense of maturity of the product features and product capabilities. So now we have identified capabilities, features, and stories. Our product backlog is ready. Now time for some development. Next, we'll see a technique that will encourage teams to use conversations and examples to build up a shared understanding of how product should work. That technique's principles enables developers to write a maintainable and better documented code base. And this technique is called as behavioral driven development. So conversations about features and examples, they do take many forms. And for example, so like testers, they do focus on details and they do value validation. So they may propose edge cases and point out the scenarios that the other team members have missed. Whereas developers, they bring out the technical considerations. Product managers, they judge the relevance and relative values of these different scenarios. Now, BDD principles and practices encourages you to write the acceptance criteria of stories and features in the form of scenarios. And these scenarios, they are identified in a structured way. So such scenarios are based on real business examples where the context and the events are usually relatively stable. So, but the outcomes, these might change depending on how you do the business. So let's revisit our user story example and write a scenario for it. So we add a basic scenario in which I'm selecting a pair of shoes and putting it in a shopping cart. Now we can identify multiple scenarios during conversation between the different team members. And this meeting or this session is called as backlog grooming sessions. So this way we share a common understanding of acceptance criteria of a story. So you identify multiple scenarios and together they form the acceptance criteria. You can then automate these scenarios and turn them into automated acceptance criteria tests. So this acceptance testing is usually, it demonstrates a high level end-to-end behavior of the product. Similarly, unit testing is used to develop the component which is behavior. Writing unit tests, you build a particular class or identify the dependencies and isolate the errors in it. So in order to pass these tests, you have to write a code. And all these tests then become a part of build process and run every time you build a product from code base. So this way of developing a product by describing its behavior through structured scenario example is called as behavior driven development, or BDD for short. And here again, conversations are at the center of action, just like they are everywhere in the product management landscape. So we identified a goal during conversations. We identified relevant capabilities and features during conversations. We identified stories and their acceptance criteria during conversations. And finally, we wrote a maintainable code that is aligned with the business goal. So this way, we created a product feature that will make an impact. So let's recap our session. So today, we completed a journey of a product feature from concept to reality. And before we embarked on this journey, we first visualized the landscape of the product management. Then we familiarized ourselves with the language spoken in this landscape, and we observed different kinds of conversations and the outcomes that come out of these conversations. And finally, we analyzed few tools and techniques that guided and helped us in this journey. All right, so I think this brings to the end of session. Thank you for your time and attention, and I hope this session was worth it.
Great. Thanks so much for that, Harshad. So we're just going to get into a quick Q&A. 15 minutes, we're just going to take a Q&A with Harshad. Harshad, I'm audible, right?
Yes, Stephen, is it okay if I get a glass of water?
Pardon? Yeah, sure.
Yeah, sure, okay.
Cool. So for everyone who's here, just in terms of what we'll be doing now, just have a quick Q&A, all right? So I see already quite a few questions that have come in on the Q&A tab. Please do add them in, and we'll pick them up as and when they keep coming in. Yeah, so add them in the Q&A chat tab, not on the chat window, because that will help us accordingly go for it. So just to keep you guys aware, next week as well, we're resuming with episode 6 of product management, and we're going to have a very interesting session because we have Sai Charan, who's working as a PM, and he's working in artificial intelligence and machine learning specifically. So he's sort of going to give a ring from how do you be a PM with the changing conditions in the world right now as things are moving towards machine learning, etc. He'll sort of talk about that in specific. So it's going to be fun. Do join in for that. We'll give you communication on that. But in the meantime, we want to pick up questions. I think when Harshad is back, we'll start taking up the questions that have come in so far, and we'll take it from there. Harshad, are you in?
Yeah, I'm back. Yes.
Okay, cool. So just to start with, Harshad, I think already we've got so many different questions that have come in rather. I just want to start with, you have obviously worked for so long in product management. Can you just give some thoughts on your experience so far? How did you transition to product management? Why did you want to pick it up? And what was your thought process to join for that?
Oh, sure. So I have, I think, worked for product companies for almost 15 years now. And in that, as I mentioned in my session, that the engineers and architects and the development team, we usually live in the solution space, right? And where we seek clarity, we seek a definite answers, and we propose definite answers rather. Whereas this product management, when I started transitioning back in 2012 and 11, it was kind of relatively new in India at that time. And most of the product managers in my organization, in our organization that time, were from outside India. So while discussing with them, I realized the different different nature of the thought process that they bring into the problem, or that they bring into the discussion. That captured my interest, and I started exploring this field. I started doing discussions with them, and slowly grew an interest in it. And I reached out to many people, seek their guidance on it. At that time, I think Upgrade was not there. Otherwise, I would have gone for the course that you guys offer. But this is the way I made the transition. I tried to first, if you want to make such transition, first my suggestion would be to find a similar role in your existing organization, okay? And even before that, you try to own the responsibilities that product managers do. So this way, it will give you a quick validation whether you really do enjoy the job, or you are just attracted to it. And once you have that validation, then look for a similar opportunity in your existing organization. If not, then make a jump outside. And while you're doing that, do make use of now all this wonderful material and courses available on the on portals such as Upgrade.
Yeah, cool. So obviously you're touching a lot upon upskilling of the basically from your feedback. Am I audible to you?
Yes.
Okay, so I think we're touching a lot upon upskilling right now.
Yes.
How important do you think upskilling is in terms of transitioning your career into product management? And is it like an important part? Was it important part of your journey? And for somebody who's looking to transition into product management now, do you think it's an important aspect to upskill yourself diligently, picking up a course, a program, or something like that, and then going forward? And if yes,
Yes.
why?
Yes, absolutely. Upskilling is absolutely important and it's necessary. So through just 6 or 7 slides, we saw the kind of interactions that product manager has to do. And all these interactions are conversations. And then you need to convert these conversations into uh, outcomes or into plans or into insights. And this is not an easy job, right? So for this, you need to develop a sense of product and a design. You need to develop a sense of outcome and an impact. You need to develop a sense of strategy and a leadership. You need to develop analytical fluency, technical fluency, communication fluency, industry and domain knowledge, your business and company knowledge. So all these things, you cannot just assume that you know or exposed to and assume the responsibilities of product manager. So for that, you need to sharpen your axe. And fortunately now, you have good courses that do understand this and provide all of this in a structured manner. Earlier, this was not possible. Earlier, you had to, I had to, understand these things in through the different experiences and then go do the deep dives for all of them to learn about these things or skills. So upskilling is definitely important. Other than the skills that I just listed, I think it's also important to have some concepts that are management concepts. Rather. So stakeholder management and then expectations management and negotiations, all these soft skills. These are also very, very important. When you assume the role of product manager or when you assume the responsibilities of product manager.
Yeah, brilliant. Yeah, that's really insightful. I think there's so many questions that are continuously coming in. I can see that we're not going to be able to take each and every one of them. Just on a different note, we do have something where we've sort of kickstarted an initiative where you can speak to an industry expert for a 30-minute call completely free of cost. So if you want to just talk to somebody and try to understand how do I transition, how do I upskill myself in product management, is this the right career for me? I'm very experienced, or I'm just starting out. Somebody just like Harsha, the other industry experts who have lots of experience in this industry will be able to talk to you one-on-one for a 30-minute call. So if you are interested, I'll be putting in the form, releasing a poll rather, and also a form on the chat window. You sort of just fill that in, and we'll then be able to schedule your call. Please note that it is helpful if you add your resume or LinkedIn. Why? Because if you are interested in speaking to an industry expert, then they can just sort of get an idea of your background through your resume or LinkedIn profile. It's not mandatory, but it's very helpful, and I would highly recommend that you do that. We also want to continue, doing these webinars, etc. So you want to know how we can help you upskill further. Is it more webinars, programs of ours, certifications of ours? So do let us know, and we'll take that forward. So coming back to you, Harshad, there's a specific question that's come in from somebody who is quite experienced. So he specifically says his name is, or her name rather, is Priya. So I'm a hardcore developer with 10 years of experience into coding, including front-end, back-end architecture, solely can develop independent web product apps, but I am looking to move towards a product management role. Please guide me. How can I start? Or is there anything else best that I should be looking for?
Okay, so we do have a developer who has a lot of experience and who wants to transition into product management, right?
Yeah.
So, product, yes. So, I think the best place would be to start asking for the responsibilities. Talk to your supervisor and start asking for the responsibilities the product owners or managers in your company or in your team are doing right now. Maybe shadow them in their work if they allow you to do that, and learn on the job with them. And this way you will also be able to validate that if you really do enjoy these responsibilities or not. Because many times it happens that because of
Sorry,
some
Harshit, you just got cut off.
campaigns.
Say that again?
So, okay, am I audible now?
Yeah.
Okay, so it's important for us to convince ourselves that why we want to take a particular path or why we want to transition to a particular career, and we should be these thoughts should be very clear in our heads. And to do that, you have to do these validations. And why not start with the existing infrastructure that you have in your company? If you don't have such infrastructure or support with you, then talk to colleagues or talk to the new sessions that Stephen just mentioned. Talk to career experts in Upgrad, and they will be able to help you or suggest more opportunities. But I suggest that start within your company first.
Got it. Got it. That's very helpful. And what about people, who are looking to transition right now, experienced, or, you just talked about the experienced folk who should be, speaking to their superiors, etc. Is there anything specific they should be doing on the side as well in addition to that? So that's one question. And, those who are also maybe mid-level professionals, or even people who are starting out their careers, or, a couple of years experience, but what do they do? How do they sort of, switch their careers into PM?
Okay, so see, we all of us, we develop some kind of skill set whenever we are working, right? And the roles in our industry, as in software industry, yes, they are distinct. Some of the responsibilities are distinct, but the skills that are needed to perform these responsibilities, they are transferable. What I mean by this is, say, if you are a developer with a lot of good analytical skills, okay? Now, analytical skills is something that is also required in product management. So it is a transferable skill from your existing role to new product manager role. So don't think on the lines that if you want to transition to a product manager, you will have to develop this all totally new set of skills. No, it does not work that way. What you need to be mindful about is recognize the good transferable skill set in you, sharpen it. Also recognize the voids that you have in your skill set, fulfill those voids, and then start exploring your the opportunities in product management space. So this is especially very important for the people with a lot of years of experience with them already. This identification of transferable skills is one important missing link or important activity that we don't do that. For example, I would like to give this example. All the women who go on maternity break, they think that once they go on maternity break, they will not be able to join back the workforce again. But then while they are on break, while they are looking after their young ones, they develop this wonderful skill set of time management, and then disaster management, and learning or drawing a quick insights or being alert, that they can transfer or they can highlight and then go for a new opportunity. So that's the way how you recognize your own worth.
There's a specific question coming from Kalai Chandar. Just on a note, yes, I will be sharing the recordings for the previous sessions. I'll just put it in the chat window right now. The YouTube playlist. Give me like a couple of minutes. I'll just add that in. For those who just put in yes to speak to the industry expert, please do fill in the form, because I won't be able to, the team won't be able to schedule your call if you don't fill in the form. It is required for you to fill it. If you don't, I'll have to email it to you and ask you please to fill it. So it's best if you just take some time out and do it right now to speak to the expert. Just circling back to the question from Kalachandar, very interesting question I think that he's posing right now. So in a journey of product development, which we have intended to sell as a licensed product, if there is a considerable change to the anticipated launch price due to vendor competitions or any other external factors, what would be the responsibility of a product manager and how should one handle it?
Stephen, I think this question is very long. Can you type it in the chat window, or please can you read back to me once again, please?
Yeah, okay. It's I want to copy it. Hold on, I'll try. Okay, can you see the Q&A tab?
Yes.
Okay, so you click on that, you will see open and
Just a
answer.
second. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
What type? What's the question again?
Okay, so can you see the open, answer, dismissed questions right in the top of the?
Just a second. Yes, answered. Yes.
Yeah, so let's take the first question from Kalachandar.
Okay. Okay. Yes.
So you can just read it out loud for everybody else to understand.
Yeah, in a journey of a product development which we have intended to sell as a licensed product, if there is a considerable change to the anticipated launch price due to vendor competitions or any other external factor, what would be the responsibility of a product manager and how should one handle it? Okay, so you are saying now you have already developed the product and you are going to sell it as a licensed product, but then you have come across a situation where you want to change the price of the product, right? Launch price of the product. Now, usually these types of communications, and because it is launch, marketing team should be involved here. So I think the job of a responsibility of a product manager in that case would be to get in touch with the product marketing team, yeah, and discuss the options or the communication that should go out from the organization to the external parties or whoever is involved in this transaction. And this way, we make sure that the right intended message goes to it, because you will have to do it anyway, whether you disclose the price or not, because you have already shared the price. So you will have to communicate this change anyway. Now, there is a way and to communicate changes. May it be in product, or may it be in price, or may it be in any aspect of your product. And this should be always aligned with the product marketing team and the business team as well, the business executive team. So your job of PM should be to bring everyone or bring together everyone and make them aware what needs to be done, and then seek out their feedback and how it needs to be done. I hope I have answered this question.
Yeah, that's an interesting question. Again, if you want to speak to an industry expert to get further feedback, please do that. You can fill that in. Now specifically, just because I think we're just a bit over time, so I'm just going to come to the end, because Harshad, thank you for staying in with us so far. Final couple of questions, Harshad, for you. I think at this point in time, many people are wondering, they want to switch into product management, sort of unsure, should they take the plunge, should they not? What are your, feedback, thoughts for them specifically? And do you want to add any specific, comments for them in terms of you've worked in this industry now for quite some time and this role for quite some time? Please do give us your thoughts on that.
Okay. All right. So I'll explain this through my journey. When I wanted to transition from product development to product management, it was, I think, over a period of 2 to 3 years this journey lasted, and I had to apply to almost 400 job positions. Okay, out of those 400, I received call from 40, and out of those 40, finally I I had a favorable response from 4 of them. So this is how the funnel was. So through all these 40 interviews, I learned from their questions, because I believe that it's important to understand the question and what kind of response is needed, rather than quickly giving an answer to it. So I studied all the questions that were asked to me. Then I went back and did a online or did my own research of these questions, and then I came to insightful answers and insightful knowledge about or insights on how this role operates. So all the PPTs, all the slides that you saw today, you can think of as a distillation of all my experience and the moments that I have experienced in this journey. So it's this has to come through experience. So you have to jump in the water to learn swimming. You cannot just sit on your chair and assume that by moving hands and legs you will learn swimming. So you have to actually make that jump and learn swimming. So it's that. I Many people they also ask that whether MBAs would help making this career transition. On that, I believe that learning is a good thing, right? It helps us widen and deeper our understanding. And MBA provides a great learning in the form of concepts, tools, and frameworks. We eventually need these for the job. So you either learn it upfront or you learn it on the job. And then, so don't consider MBA courses, or for that matter, any courses, as escalators, okay? They're not going to magically take you from the level where you are right now and from the level where you think you need to go. They are not escalators. Rather, they open a new doors of opportunities to you, because through their knowledge that they give to you or that they share with you. So then it becomes easy for you to make the transition. So go for it, whatever way, do giving your 100% and do validate in small steps, so that you will understand, you will do this course correction whenever it is required.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Harshad, for that. I think very insightful session, really helpful. Thanks so much for joining us today and sharing your, your experience with all of us.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Yeah. Thanks, Harshad. Just on that note, thanks everyone for joining in. We will resume next week again with episode 6. Going to be a really interesting session because we have Sai Charan, who's the product manager, and he works in artificial intelligence and machine learning. I think many people are wondering where the links are. I will make sure the team adds the links to the YouTube or the playlist that I've sent to you. In terms of filling the link over email, I will send that to you over email for the Expert Connect. If you can, please do fill it in even right now, because it just sort of saves time and we can get that call arranged for you as soon as possible. Upgrad also has a specific product management program for those of you who don't know. That's specifically for those who are looking to upskill, and we basically take you through certification online. And we've got a career assistance also, which we have in order, wherein we help place various learners. So it's actually been going on for almost 4 to 5 years that we've been running this program. At least it's been since 2016 that we've had this. So it's a product management certification with Duke University. It's 5 months. And we've seen quite a lot of people who have transitioned, both experienced and people who even started out. Next week, we're going to have an alumni also coming in to talk about his experience towards the end. We just have a short interview, probably 10, 15 minutes. So if you'd be interested in joining in for that, you can, join in for that. So it has 200 hours of learning. You go through 15 various case studies, assignments, a lot of live lectures as well that you go through. And part of the career assistance is where once you finish the program, we have 300 plus hiring partners that do hire through Upgrad. and they do come through our job hiring portal, and which we have something called Upgrad Career Portal, which is very similar to Naukri actually. And once you enroll and you opt in, the career services is part of that, and you get that for life. Actually, it doesn't stop, and every time a new job comes in, it keeps on coming in every day, and you can apply. And if your profile matches even more closely, we do push up your resume with the recruiters. We also have something called just-in-time interviews, wherein we help you with mock interviews, etc. Just before an interview that you have on our schedule to have, we arrange that for you to help you transition. Our course is very much designed to try to give you the most probability and chance to transition, which is what I think many people are aiming for, everywhere when you're trying to upskill. So do check it out. If you want to check it out, go to upgrad.com. Just go to, when you go to upgrad.com, you have to go under program, which is in the top left, and just check management. And you will see the Duke Management, Product Management program that we have. So I hope you enjoyed today's session, guys. Thanks so much for joining in, tuning in. We're looking forward to seeing you next week with Sai Charan on building a product in machine learning. It's going to be fun. Thanks a lot again, guys. I'm going to log off. If you have any specific questions, just let me know. I will email that to you. Just in the chat window, if you have any questions, just punch that in quickly. I'll try to take that up. Anything with regards to Upgrad or something around that which you want to know, if you can punch that in right now, I'm happy to sort of answer that as much as possible. If there's nothing, then we can take it easy. And I wish you a good Friday as well, and that you have a good evening and enjoy the weekend. Okay, there's a big question that's come in, which Kai Chandran has asked. Okay. Please, how do you differentiate? Okay, that's a big question, Kalai Chandran. Can you sort of, I think for that sort of question, I think, why don't you connect with the industry expert? Because again, I'm not quite sure. I think you just copy pasted all the questions that have been asked so far or answered. So I'm a bit confused. But Riti is asking, does Upgrad hire product managers? You mean Upgrad as an organization? Yes, we have hired, we do have a massive team of product managers in our organization for sure. At the moment, I'm not sure if we are hiring for product managers specifically. You'll have to check out Upgrad's website on careers on that one in specific. So do check that out. We do, like I said again, we do have companies that hire through us. So if you opt in for a product management course, once you sort of work through it, we do open up the opportunities for you to get hired. And we also have a very strong career assistance and placement program that we have on offer for those who enroll. So Riti is asking, okay, you are in the online education industry. Yeah, Riti, I would say just check out on Upgrad website and you can check it out. Sumit, how different is FMCG PM as compared to SWPM, and how do I train myself towards an FMCG PM? Okay, so that's a very good question, Sumit, and this is exactly where I would say you need to speak to somebody who is an industry expert. So I would rather you talk to somebody who's already a product manager rather than me, who's already working, who's already in an FMCG organization. So we have a vast variety of experts who we connect you with, and you can sort of just let us know and connect you with the industry expert. Ajay Agarwal, what was the question? The question that Riti asked is Upgrad hiring for product managers? And my answer is, I'm not sure. You have to check out the Upgrad website to find out about that. The question after that was, how different from Sumit? Are you saying from Sumit? It's there. I'm going to post the question in there. Again, like I said, you must reach out to the industry expert that is there, which you can connect with through the Google form. Please do that. I think quite a number of you have already punched in saying yes. So if you haven't filled in the form, fill it in. Will be helpful for you. But thanks a lot, guys. I'm happy that I could answer your questions. There's no certificates, Maithili, for this. Like I mentioned at the start as well, we do have free courses which you can opt in for, and you do get a certificate for that. Just search for upgrade free courses, finish those courses, you get a certification, and that's it. Yeah, I'm glad you enjoyed it. Ajay, really happy that you joined in as well. I hope you guys are enjoying these sessions. We are trying to keep them as, as fun and as learning as much as possible for you guys. We look forward to that. Anyways, I'm going to log off as well, guys. Thanks so much for joining in. We'll see you next week, Friday, 7 to 8 p.m. with Sai Charan, as he talks about machine learning and building that a product in machine learning. Good night, guys. Stay safe, stay indoors, and have a good evening. Bye.